citizens of the world. We are anonymous.
The very word secrecy is repugnant in a free and open society. And we are, as a people, inherently and historically opposed to secret societies, to secret oaths, and to secret proceedings. We decided long ago that the dangers of excessive and unwarranted concealment of pertinent facts far outweighed the dangers which are cited to justify it. Even today, there is little value in opposing the threat of a closed society by imitating its arbitrary restrictions. Even today, there is little value in ensuring the survival of our nation if our traditions do not survive with it. And there is very grave danger that an announced need for increased security will be seized upon by those anxious to expand its meaning to the very limits of official censorship and concealment.
Now then, this satanic plot was launched back in the 1760s when it first came into existence under the name of the Illuminati. This Illuminati was organized by one Adam Weishaupt, born a Jew, who was converted to Catholicism and became a Catholic priest, and then, at the behest of the then newly organized House of Rothschild, defected and organized the Illuminati. Naturally, the Rothschilds financed that operation. And every war since then, beginning with the French Revolution, has been promoted by the Illuminati, operating under various names and guises. I say under various names and guises because after the Illuminati was exposed and became too notorious, Weishaupt and his co-conspirators began to operate under various other names. In the United States, immediately after World War I, they set up what they called the Council on Foreign Relations, commonly referred to as the CFR. And this CFR is actually the Illuminati in the United States.
Of the council
and
right
its
here down the street from the State
the
Department.
masterminds in control
We
of
get
the
a lot of
CFR,
advice from the council,
to a
so
very
this
great
will mean I
extent,
won't have this far to go
the
to
descendants of the
be
original
told what we
Illuminati
should be doing
conspirators.
and how we should think about the future.
For we are opposed around the world by a monolithic and ruthless conspiracy that relies primarily on covert means for expanding its sphere of influence, on infiltration instead of invasion, on subversion instead of elections, on intimidation instead of free choice, on guerrillas by night instead of armies by day. It is a system which has conscripted vast human and material resources into the building of a tightly knit, highly efficient machine that combines military, diplomatic, intelligence, economic, scientific, and political operations. Its preparations are concealed, not published. Its mistakes are buried, not headlined. Its dissenters are silenced, not praised. No expenditure is questioned, no rumor is printed, no secret is revealed.
In researching the House of the Temple in D.C., I came across a rare depiction of the Kabbalistic Tree of Life in Albert Pike's Morals and Dogma, shown here as a set of 3 stacked rhombi. This knowledge encoded at Chartres was preserved by Freemasons. For the next revelation, we turn to music and geometry. In music, an octave is the interval between one note and another having double its frequency. In plane geometry, you can symbolize the octave in 2 ways, ad triangulum or ad quadratum. The circle outside the triangle has double the diameter of the circle inside. Circle outside the square has double the area of the circle inside. The central vault is defined by a larger circle having twice the diameter of the smaller circle inside, which itself is equal to the diameter of all the circles in the wall section, the rose windows, and the labyrinth. Chartres is therefore based on one circle repeated using musical principles. Amazingly, the flower of life fits this geometry. Perhaps the master of the compasses used the flower as the overarching design template. You can draw the flower of life using compasses only. The nave width is set by a central circle which is tangent to 4 others, having equal diameters. The central circle shown within the yellow triangle completes the picture. Masonic society probably began around the time Chartres was being built. Recall how Saint Bernard de Clairvaux was instrumental in the formation of the Templars, and later, after the Templars were taken down, the knowledge they unearthed from Solomon's Temple went back underground to survive in Masonry, Rosicrucianism, and other secret societies. The Masonic square and compasses emblem often depicts these instruments surrounding the letter G. As with most symbols, the meaning of G depends upon your level of knowledge.
The question of how and why the United Nations is the crux of the great conspiracy to destroy the sovereignty of the United States and the enslavement of the American people within a UN one-world dictatorship is a complete and unknown mystery to the vast majority of the American people. The reason for this unawareness of the frightening danger to our country and to the entire free world is simple. The masterminds behind this great conspiracy have absolute control of all of our mass communications media, especially television, the radio, the press, and Hollywood. We all know that our State Department, the Pentagon, and the White House have brazenly proclaimed that they have the right and the power to manage the news, to tell us not the truth, but what they want us to believe. They have seized that power on orders from their masters of the great conspiracy. And the objective is to brainwash the people into accepting the phony peace bait, to transform the United States into an enslaved unit of the United Nations one world government.
Without debate, without criticism, no administration and no country can succeed, and no republic can survive. That is why the Athenian lawmaker Solon decreed it a crime for any citizen to shrink from controversy. And that is why our press was protected by the First Amendment, the only business in America specifically protected by the Constitution, not primarily to amuse and entertain, not to emphasize the trivial and the sentimental, not to simply give the public what it wants, but to inform, to arouse, to reflect, to state our dangers and our opportunities, to indicate our crises and our choices, to lead, mold, educate, and sometimes even anger public opinion.
Because they fucking hate Palestinians, and Palestinians are animals to these people. It's sick, man. It's sick. I couldn't even get into Gaza. We were banned from going into this territory because I was told by the Israeli government that I was a propagandist and that I was like an enemy agent, and so I wasn't allowed to go into Gaza. So, like, it's just completely different than what people think of Palestine, you know? And like, well, Hamas doesn't want Israel to exist. It's like, well, actually, Hamas is controlling this one area for a reason, because it was built as this surplus when Israel was created. Millions of refugees were put miles away from the homes that they were ethnically cleansed from. Yeah, it's sick. And they have like no water. They just have one water tank every month, and Israeli soldiers will go and spray skunk spray, which is like a military manufactured, disgusting, toxic tasting spray that's like tastes like sewage water, and they'll just go like target these water tanks, and then your water will be fucked for the whole month. It's just little things like this just to make people's lives a living hell. I mean, it's really crazy, and you really don't understand how bad it is and why it's so dangerous, and how really it's been the crux of so many problems in the world, especially in that region. Like what we've done just to create this settler colonial state in the middle of the Middle East and expel all these people violently, and then just unconditionally support Israel no matter what war crimes they commit, no matter who they bomb, no matter who they kill. It's sick. And people don't respect us for doing that. And it's super hypocritical when we're engaging in military operations in the name of fucking morality and humanitarianism. I think that it's a partnership. I think that the U.S. sees a lot of leverage having Israel there, but I think it's becoming more unpopular where it's almost becoming a liability because the rest of the world is increasingly realizing how fucked up this situation is and trying to boycott like the state. I mean, we need to put pressure on our government to stop this occupation because it's completely inhumane and disgraceful.
That the Illuminati was not set up to operate on a short-range basis. Normally, a conspirator of any type enters into a conspiracy with the expectation of achieving his objective during his own lifetime. But that was not the case with the Illuminati. True, they hope to accomplish their objective during their lifetime. But, paraphrasing The Show Must Go On, the Illuminati operates on the very long-range basis. Whether it will take scores of years or even centuries, they have dedicated their descendants to keep the plot boiling until, they hope, the conspiracy is achieved. Now let's go back to the birth of the Illuminati. Adam Weishaupt was a Jesuit-trained professor of canon law, teaching in Ingolstadt University when he defected from Christianity to embrace the Luciferian conspiracy. It was in 1770 that the professional moneylenders, the then recently organized House of Rothschild, retained him to revise and modernize the age-old protocols of Zionism.
In 1947, the UN decided to partition Palestine into a Jewish state, an Arab state, and a UN-administered Jerusalem. This decision led to a series of wars, and ultimately Israel's independence in 1948.
And put into refugee camps in Gaza. And when the Israeli military wanted more and more land, by the way, all settlements in Israel are illegal. By the way, all settlements in Israel are illegal. By the way, all settlements in Israel are illegal. He was talking about why Israel deserves to exist and stuff. After being there, man, holy shit, I feel like people have no idea. I didn't even know what the hell was going on until I went to Palestine and saw how crazy it was. But
what is it like? Give me your thoughts and your
So
experience.
Everyone mistakenly thinks that Hamas like controls Palestine. That's not true at all. There's 3 different areas that were drawn up with the original partition. It's the West Bank, which is totally under military rule by Israel, and then there's the Gaza Strip, which is like the open air prison, which they bomb the shit out of like every couple of years, and Hamas controls that area. And then there's Jerusalem, which is an international city center that both Arabs and Jews live in. But the West Bank has been occupied militarily since 1967, and it's complete martial law. There's checkpoints. All political parties are illegal. You can't, having a gun is like the least of it. You can't hold a flag. You can't belong to a political party. You literally can't do shit if you're a Palestinian. You just have to sit there and submit. You just have to sit there and submit.
You just have to sit there and submit.
And even if you share a photo of someone who was like killed by an Israeli soldier, you go to jail. And you go to jail for the amount of like months that...
What?
Yeah, based on the shares and likes of the photo, they'll penalize you more and put you in prison for longer and longer. And they put them in jail. There's a 99.7% conviction rate. Kids are tortured. Kids are in prison.
Kids are tortured. Kids are in prison.
Kids are tortured. Kids are in prison. It is absolutely insane. We went to... The first day that we were there, we went to a funeral of some guy, some farmer who was shot by Israeli forces, and we went to the funeral. It was horrible. You know, all the women are wailing and crying, and as we're leaving, the Israeli forces had set up a checkpoint right outside of this dude's house and started tear gassing and shooting rubber bullets like at people who were simply attending the funeral, just to punish people for attending the funeral. We went to another girl's house named Aya, who got shot in the vagina for peacefully protesting at some protest, and they shot 200 people that day. One guy next to her died, another guy was paralyzed. They have a policy called shoot to cripple, where they shoot guys in the dicks. Yeah, it is fucking nuts, man. The West Bank is no joke. I thought that I was gonna die several times. We were at this checkpoint going through Calandia, and there was this old man walking, like clearly drunk or something, and kind of like walking a little bit toward the checkpoint. They started shooting at him. Bullets are ricocheting off the thing. And my partner Mike, who was an invading soldier of Iraq, was just like, we're gonna die. Like, they're shooting this guy, there's bullets ricocheting. It was absolutely insane. And as we go through the checkpoint, the soldier's like, hey, stay safe out there.
May 1, 1776, that Weishaupt completed his plan and officially organized the Illuminati, to put the plan into execution. That plan required the destruction of all existing governments and religions. That objective was to be reached by dividing the masses of people whom he, Weishaupt, termed Goyim, or human cattle, into opposing camps in ever-increasing numbers on political, social, economic, and other issues. The very conditions we have in our country today. The opposing sides were then to be armed and incidents provided which would cause them to fight and weaken themselves and gradually destroy national governments and religious institutions. They were to be held in bondage by application of political and other forms of blackmail, threats of financial ruin, public exposure and physical harm, even death, to themselves and loved members of their families. We are supposed to believe that the international bankers of today, like the money changers of Christ's day, are only the tools or agents of the great conspiracy, but actually, they are the masterminds behind all of it. While the general public has been brainwashed by all the mass communications media into believing that communism is a movement of the so-called workers, the actual fact is that both British and American intelligence officers have authentic documentary evidence that international liberals, operating through their international banking houses, particularly the House of Rothschild, have financed both sides in every war and revolution since 1776. Those who today comprise the conspiracy, the CFR in the United States, direct our governments, whom they hold in usury through such methods as the Federal Reserve System in America, to fight wars such as Vietnam, created by the United Nations, so as to further Pike's Illuminati plans to bring the world to that stage of the conspiracy when atheistic communism and the whole of Christianity can be forced into an all-out Third World War within each remaining nation as well as on an international scale. The headquarters of the Great Conspiracy in the late 1700s was in Frankfurt, Germany, where the House of Rothschild had been established by Mayer Anschelm, who adopted the Rothschild name and linked together other international financiers who had literally sold their souls to the devil. After the Bavarian government's exposure in 1786, the conspirators moved their headquarters to Switzerland, then to London. Since World War II, after Jacob Schiff, the Rothschild's boy in America, died, the headquarters of the American branch has been in the Harold Pratt Building, New York, and the Rockefellers, originally protégés of Schiff, have taken over the manipulation of finances in America for the Illuminati.
People are treating Google like their most trusted friend. Should they be?
Well, I think judgment matters.
Eric Schmidt is Google's CEO.
If you have something that you don't want anyone to know, maybe you shouldn't be doing it in the first place. There's what I call the creepy line, and the Google policy about a lot of these things is to get right up to the creepy line but not cross it. I would argue that implanting things in your brain is beyond the creepy line. Yes, at least for the moment, until the technology gets better. At least for the moment, until the technology gets better. At least for the moment, until the technology gets better. At least for the moment, until the technology gets better.
Google has always attempted to project itself as the white hat in the Wild West of the modern internet. Cloaked in its cutesy "Don't Be Evil" corporate slogan and its user-friendly design, the company has grown from a simple search engine into one of the largest assemblies of information in the history of the world, without the type of scrutiny that one would expect during such a transformation. Within a decade, it had already managed significant inroads on its quest for total information awareness, having branched out into 3D satellite mapping services, launched highly popular webmail and cloud storage services, created its own web browser, acquired YouTube, and branched into mobile technologies with the Android smartphone. It is not precisely clear when the company caught the attention of America's intelligence agencies, but high-level whistleblowers suggest it was early on in the company's history. In a 2006 interview, ex-CIA agent Robert David Steele suggested that it was from the very outset. "I think Google took money from the CIA when it was poor and it was starting up," Steele said in the interview. "They've been together for quite a while." Steele also fingered the company's point man in the CIA, Dr. Rick Steinheiser, in the Office of Research and Development. Details of the NSA-Google relationship are effectively classified. There are also examples of the government corporate revolving door that make observers of companies like Monsanto and Halliburton uneasy. Still, despite the growing amount of information that Google has over every aspect of the daily lives of its billion-plus unique monthly users, it has long avoided any serious scrutiny in the press. Initially sheltered by its underdog status in the fight against tech giants like Apple and Microsoft, even the corporate press has been forced to cover the serious abuses that Google has inflicted on its users in recent years, as those abuses become more flagrant and less easily dismissible.
I am not a number. I am a free man.
I thought that it was a matter of real concern that planted stories intended to serve a national purpose abroad came home and were circulated here and believed here, because this would mean that the CIA could manipulate the news in the United States by channeling it through some foreign country. And we're looking at that very carefully.
Managed to knock down 3 buildings with 2 planes in New York, while in Washington a pilot who couldn't handle a single-engine Cessna was able to fly a 757 in an 8,000-foot descending 270-degree corkscrew turn to come exactly level with the ground, hitting the Pentagon in the budget analyst office where DoD staffers were working on the mystery of the $2.3 trillion that Defense Secretary Donald Rumsfeld had announced missing from the Pentagon's coffers in a press conference the day before, on September 10th, 2001. Luckily, the news anchors knew who did it within minutes.
Osama bin Laden.
The pundits knew within hours.
Osama bin Laden.
The administration knew within the day.
Terrorists who committed these acts, and those who harbored them.
And the evidence literally fell into the FBI's lap.
That a hijacker's passport was found blocks from the World Trade Center crash site. We can believe that.
But for some reason, a bunch of crazy conspiracy theorists demanded an investigation into the greatest attack on American soil in history. That investigation was delayed, underfunded, set up to fail, a conflict of interest, and a cover-up from start to finish. It was based on testimony extracted through torture, the records of which were destroyed. It failed to mention the existence of WTC-7, Able Danger, P-TECH, Sibel Edmonds, OBL and the CIA, and the drills of hijacked aircraft being flown into buildings that were being simulated at the precise same time that those events were actually happening. It was lied to by the Pentagon, the CIA, the Bush administration, and as for Bush and Cheney, well, no one knows what they told it because they testified in secret, off the record, not under oath, and behind closed doors.
Pentagon. The day before 9/11, Secretary of Defense Donald Rumsfeld declared war, not on foreign terrorists.
The adversary is closer to home. It's the Pentagon bureaucracy.
He said money wasted by the military poses a serious threat.
In fact, it could be said that it's a matter of life and death.
Rumsfeld promised change, but the next day, the world changed. And in the rush to fund the war on terrorism, the war on waste seems to have been forgotten.
My 03 budget calls for more than $48 billion in new defense spending. $48 billion in new defense spending.
More money for the Pentagon when its own auditors admit the military cannot account for 25% of what it already spends.
According to some estimates, we cannot track $2.3 trillion in transactions.
$2.3 trillion with a T. That's $8,000 for every man, woman, and child in America. To understand how the Pentagon can lose track of trillions, consider the case of one military accountant who tried to find out what happened to a mere $300 million.
We know it's wrong, but we don't know what they spend on.
Jim Minery, a former Marine turned whistleblower, is risking his job by speaking out for the first time about the millions he noticed were missing from one.
And when you think about an instrument like HARP, think about it like a tuner or a primer on a bullet. It captures some of the localized energy and amplifies the signal by 1,000 times, and then you use the Earth itself as a key to your weapon system. We could electronically stroke the ionosphere in just the right way to return a signal to the Earth that would change the behavior of people over huge geographic areas. And this is what HARP can do today. Influence the behavior of human beings without any kind of implanted device or mechanical or electronic device attached to a human being.
They tell me you're a hacker?
I guess.
Good, good. You and I are going to spy on a lot of innocent people together. Get ready to see the real America, young lady. A country of human beings, most of them guilty of no crime whatsoever, and we get to watch them live their lives 24 hours a day. You can't beat that kind of intimacy.
Okay.